Every once in a while, there's born a man on this earth who leaves a deep imprint on the sands of time. One such notable figure was Kumar Nandan Parsad, a distinguished Indian police service, first batch Bihar Cadre, 1948 officer, who went on to become the Additional Home Secretary to the Government of India. Born on the 10th of July in 1922, Kumar Nandan had a brilliant academic career in Patna University, where he stood first class second in BA History Honours and obtained first class in MA History. A freedom fighter, Kumar was arrested by the British imperial rulers during the 1942 Quit India movement. A few years later, as a police officer, he had a rewarding tenure with the Intelligence Bureau, Ministry of Defence, and with the Information and Broadcasting Ministry as Additional Secretary 1975 to 1977, before he served a two-year term 1979 to 1981 as Additional Home Secretary to the Government of India. Kumar Nandan was awarded Padma Shri by the President of India in 1969 for his role in tackling internal disturbance in the country and became the youngest serving police officer or civil servant to have received this honour.
Selected by the Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to hold charge of the district Bomdila and other frontier areas to restore required level of morale.
One of his greatest achievements was developing certain intelligence network in the northern border.
And for that, he was also honored with the Padma Shri award.
When he was awarded Padma Shri by the President of India, he was so modest to say that I got this not because of my abilities and work, but because of the cooperation I received from my colleagues.
He was also a recipient of the President's Police Medal for Distinguished and Meritorious Services and of the Purvi Star Medal for his stellar role in the operations leading to the liberation of Bangladesh in 1971. Among the many important assignments that Kumar undertook after his retirement from the police service was to join Security and Intelligence Services, SIS, founded by first-generation journalist turned entrepreneur Ravindra Kishore Sinha as its chief advisor in July 1985, a post he held till his last day of life. Under his loving care, SIS, then a budding private security agency, grew exponentially over the next 18 years. Kumar Nandan remained its chief rower and undisputed father figure of the SIS. A visionary, he foresaw that security training would have a great role to play in future. In 1990, he founded the International Institute of Security and Safety Management, IISSM, which went on to become the intellectual confluence of top security experts from across the world. Retired IPS officer and a former colleague, K.P. Madhikar, chairman of IISM, remembers K.N. Prasad as a brilliant fellow officer and a great human being who had a knack to get the best out of his colleagues and subordinates.
More than his brilliance and acumen, he had one great quality in him, that he could take out work from his colleagues and subordinates. He was a very great taskmaster indeed, but at the same time, he was very, very kind to all his friends and subordinates.
K.N. Prasad was a man given to walking a mile to help a dear one. He was a visionary who realized early the huge potential of the security training business. It was his vision that led to the setting up of IISSM in 1990. IISSM Executive Chairman and SIS CMD R.K. Sinha, who remembers K.N. Prasad as a friend, mentor and guide, one who steered his security business through its early years, recalls how it happened.
It is very difficult, rather impossible to describe the versatile personality of Padma Shri K.N. Prasad. What was K.N. Prasad? What was his contribution to the society?
K.N. Prasad was like a coconut shell, very tough, very hard from outside, and very soft from inside.
As far as the welfare of the men were concerned, he was always one step ahead. He would always say, whatever verbal scolding you have to do to correct a person, you can do, but don't kick his belly. उसके पेट पर लात मत मारो.
Former Governor of Jammu and Kashmir and Assam, General S.K. Sinha, remembers K.N. Prasad as a thorough gentleman, blessed with the ability to excel in whatever he did.
I had known Sri K.N. Prasad, commonly known as Kumar Nandan, from our childhood days. He was 2 years senior to me in college and about 3 years older in age. During the emergency, 1975 to 77, I was Chief of Military Intelligence and Kumar Nandan was in Ministry of Information and Broadcasting as an additional secretary. Perhaps this is the first time that a police officer had been given such an appointment in the Central Secretariat, that in 1990 I went as India's ambassador to Nepal, and about the same time Kumar Nandan went as advisor to the governor of Assam, which was then under President's rule. A few years later, I went as governor of Assam, and I was very pleased to hear that the people there talked highly of his administrative ability. My recollections of Mr. K.N. Prasad are one of a thorough gentleman with marked ability who served well in whatever assignment he undertook. He was a rare policeman who distinguished himself in various fields. He was also a good teacher.
To former police officer D.C. Nath of IISSM, K.N. Prasad will always be a true professional with a soft heart.
Sri K.N. Prasad was known to me from my days in the Intelligence Bureau. He was indeed a towering personality in more than one sense. Once he accepted you as his lieutenant, he would give you all protection that a senior can alone do. Mr. K.N. Prasad was in more than one sense an institution, not only in the ISSM, but perhaps one can say also in the field of private security industry in the country.
A.K. Mattu of IISSM remembers till date K.N. Prasad's fraps of security issues and his eye for detail.
I first came in contact with Padma Shri Mr. K.N. Prasad sometime in 91-92 when he visited Jamshedpur as a member of the team from SIS. I became a member of the ISM, of which Mr. K.N. Prasad was the chairman. It was a pleasure being associated with him in this organization, which was totally professionally managed and run. He would go to the extent of very detailed in his observations, the aim being how do we improve the security scenario in the country, and particularly the role of the private security in this entire setup.
Retired police officer S.K. Sharma of IISSM recalls K.N. Prasad's uncanny grasp of whatever went around him.
In fact, it was known that people who worked with him or under him better pull up their socks, otherwise he'll pull down their pants. He was brilliant at whatever he did. It was that always made him a stalwart to us, a fatherly figure to us. And despite all his idiosyncrasies here and there, we always liked him. The gap that he has left cannot be filled ever, but we can only be guided by the high standards that he has laid down for us.
For Uday Singh, Group Chief Executive Officer SIS, the most enduring memory of K.N. Prasad draws upon the great man's business acumen.
A great combination of an excellent bureaucrat and a great corporate manager. Some of the things which come to my mind readily are his ability to conceptualize and then also create detailed framework for its implementation. Probably a long tenure at BHL in the corporate world, setting out corporate plan, implementation, finance, accounting, had helped him shape up in what later on he could contribute in ISSM, not only as creator but implementer, utilizing his contacts, his vast experience. And ISSM today is a testimony to his leadership and thinking into the future.
For Arvind Prasad, Chief Financial Officer SIS, the most enduring memory of K.N. Prasad is of a tough taskmaster who cared deeply for his subordinates.
I had the good fortune of working with Mr. K.N. Prasad for a number of years. When he came to SIS, he had a reputation of being a very, very hard taskmaster. But after working with him for some time, we realized that he was a people's person. He used to care very deeply for all his colleagues and associates. And a large part of my growth as a manager, I attribute to him because he mentored me when I needed mentoring most.
Captain S.B. Tyagi of IISSM remembers K.N. Prasad as a perfectionist.
I have that impression that he was one of those men who will leave lifetime impact on you even when meeting is for very short duration. It was a persona which he adopted, that he is tough, sharp speaking, and who would not bother kind of interference which would come in his way. But this was basically with one intention, that he wanted everything to be done with perfection.
K.N. Prasad's great tenure as a police officer was what inspired Chhattisgarh Director General of Police, Vishwa Ranjan, to join the IPS.
Actually, he was my role model also. And that is why when I took the decision to take the UPSC exam, I filled in only for IPS. After I became IPS, especially when I joined the Intelligence Bureau, I had already heard a lot of stories about him when he was in the Intelligence Bureau. A lot of people would say how difficult it was to work with him because he was a perfectionist in all respects. But at the same time, he was a man with a very, very soft heart, very concerned person, and that was secret of his being one of the finest police officers this country has produced.
K.N. Prasad is fondly remembered by the people he worked with and by the people he was associated with, each for his own reason.
मेरा संबंध उनके साथ अंतरात्मा का संबंध था. My oldest memory of Mr. Prasad is when I was 6 years old. So I have a 50 years of memory to talk about. I still remember that when I joined the service, just before going to the National Police Academy for training, he gave me his ceremonial sword and said, "Ab tum isko pehn rakho." I don't think he realized of how much of burden or how much of responsibility or how much of expectations he had put on my shoulders. Similarly, he also told me that you must learn to live on a shoestring budget all your life. After my training, I joined Bihar Cadre, and he was also a Bihar Cadre officer of 48 batch, and there were many occasions in which I occupied the place of posting where he had been posted earlier. And I always felt that I wish I'm living up to his standards, because these were very high standards. Whether it was a city SP, SP Dhanbad, SP Crime in the CID, Director Training in BPR&D, his standards were extremely high. And I always had this feeling, I hope I'm living up to his standards. Mamu did not believe in soul and rebirth. He used to feel that we are like a machine and one day it stops working. I have, of course, started believing in soul and rebirth, because it gives me so much of solace to think that somewhere Mamu must be there, Mr. Prasad must be there, about 6-7 years old, spreading happiness all over the place. And that is why I feel that I wish that it is true that there is a soul and there is rebirth. I know I can never be like him, but I would have loved to have his compassion and his disarming sense of humor.
In 1959, Bihar was probably the first province or a state to appoint a police commission, and Mr. Kane Prasad was appointed secretary of that commission. As a young ASP, I was asked to assist him in drafting the report of the commission. I found him very, very intelligent, hard-working, painstaking, and a perfectionist, in the sense that he used to weigh every word while dictating his report. He earned a name not only for himself but for the state of Bihar also, as one of the most well-known police officers of this country. He was known for his caliber, intelligence, honesty, integrity, hard work, and he will be always remembered by young officers as a role model, because he combined not all the qualities. He had character, talent, and he always inspired others. A true leader who always led from the front, and he earned admiration of one and all who came in contact with him.
Talking about Kumar Nandan Parsad, it was a privilege for me to have come in contact with a man like him. After retirement, he came back to Patna. He joined Freemasonry, of which I was a member. And although he had been a member of Masonic Lodge previously, but he had not shown that keenness. After retirement, his keenness was phenomenal. In Freemasonry, we have to do some mugging up also. In that also, he was well up to the mark and was not found wanting in any matter.
Wherever he remained, he created a name for himself. In the IB, he was a source of inspiration and also awe for many of the junior officers. After retirement, when he came to Bihar, we had been meeting quite frequently on different occasions. And I found that he was very, very helpful. And whenever I went to him with certain problem, the suggestions that he gave proved to be